Well, it is Good News Thursday. And the good news is that Tesla finished strong today, and it kept going a little bit into the after hours. And then there's more good news. Bradford Ferguson of Rebellionaire.com is co-hosting on Thursdays, and he'll hopefully help us sort things out. Bradford, glad to have you on board again.
Good to be back. We got number two.
We got
number
yes,
two.
You were the number one. Not that last week's co-hosting, but the earlier one this month was the number one video of the last 28 days when we talked about later. But Larry Goldberg's video from earlier today, which, by the way, if you guys haven't watched it yet, you need to go back on the 48-volt system. Go back and take a look at that one. It is blowing things up right now. So
Larry has a knack of finding some new things, some new insights.
He does, and then presenting them well. He's really good with the slideshows. So I want to start, Bradford, with the issue that everyone seems to want to know in my particular audience. And they take a look at the guy that wears the funny shirts. By the way, what do you think? Huh?
I like that one. That's a really good one.
Is that good or what? I know you're probably...
Did you get that made?
No, my wife found it by golly and bought it for me. So anyway... Some folks that see me wearing the funny shirts don't know what I'm talking about. So when I say that we're going to be hitting all-time highs at the end of January of roughly 410, and then some of my co-hosts don't agree with me. They think I'm losing my ever-loving mind. What about you? Do you have any price targets that you'd like to share when it comes to Tesla stock?
It sounds a little high, 410 by January of 2024. In 2025, we do have a price target or a valuation of $434. And in 2030, we have a valuation of $1,034. Included in these valuations are Tesla's auto business, their energy business, and just FSD as a useful feature.
I see.
If we included Tesla bot or autonomy, they'd be much different, much higher. We did a valuation of Tesla bot in a video on Rebellionaire channel, and I believe we value it around $3,400 today. So, and that's if it becomes useful within the next year or two for Tesla, and then like quickly scales from there.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, so
we don't expect Wall Street to agree with us anytime soon. Even if it becomes useful, they'll be very slow to the punch. Yeah.
I see. Well, I think Wall Street will have to have a couple of things. They will have to have usefulness. They'll have to see the usefulness. They'll have to see production. They'll have to see literally there's not just 12, there's 500 or whatever. And then they'll have to see what the price is, with some idea of what the cost to make it is. I think if they had those four metrics, I think they would be able to then take a look, and because once you've made 100 of them, it's not going to be anything at all to make 1 million of them. So I don't think that'll be the issue. All right, so you don't think my 410 by the end of January, huh? You're not gonna come along with it. Now I do have some caveats.
So, let's hear them.
Number one, we do have to get to 1.8 million for 2023 in order for that to come true. We have to see some increase in margins at the meeting in January. We have to have clarity on the increased capacity at Lathrop and or clarity on the start date for the new mega factory, as you call it, in Shanghai. And then a strong continuing bull / risk on market with no major gaffes from Elon. Now, I know the last one is the only one you probably think will ruin it, but anyway, so if we got all of those and we were at the end of January, any chance we're at 410?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that for sure.
All right.
One thing that may happen, and Zach is no longer with us, or maybe he's still on the finance team at Tesla, Zach Kirkhorn.
Yes.
They're talking about releasing the numbers to Megapack on the production and delivery report.
Right.
So we may get that around January 2nd, which would be
huge.
That'd be interesting. And we don't know if they've picked it up yet. They do now have 6 straddle loaders there. Those are the red things you see, picking them up and moving them out of the factory. And
now you originally thought that the straddle loader was the holdup, that was the what do you call it? The thing that they needed in order to really ramp up to full production. Is that still?
Well, they need batteries and inverters. So that's the big holdup that Tesla said it was. And it was the last spot on the line is where the batteries are put in. And they said the last spot on the line was the holdup.
I see.
They did need more straddle loaders, and they do have more now. And they've essentially doubled the number of doors that, send the mega packs out to the world.
Yes.
And I'm guessing they've doubled like the number of heavy duty conveyor belts. So when I was there, I saw there were 3 conveyor belts that coming out of the one door, and I'm guessing there'll be 3 for the other door, and so that's 6. And they got 6 straddle loaders. So we'll see, when they have enough batteries and inverters to be able to really crank things up. What I'm curious about, and I don't have time yet to go back to Lathrop, but when I go back, I'm curious how many straddle loaders are they using at the same time?
I see.
When I was there last, it was just 2.
I see. Wow. Yeah. So
these are the red things. They pick up these mega packs. The mega packs are 82,000 pounds.
Right.
And you move them, and then they put them down in the parking lot. And then when the semi with the flatbed trailer comes, and they'll pick it up from the spot it's in at the parking lot, and they'll move it over to the trailer and set it down on the trailer.
Nice. So that's the update for Lathrop. Is there any update at all that you know of for Shanghai? Do we have? I know we've had a little bit of talk the last couple of days about Shanghai, but have you heard anything conclusive about when that mega factory might actually be up and running?
Unfortunately, I have not. And one of the last things I heard about Shanghai is that Wuwa, who does a lot of the flyover videos, it's WUWA, he's getting chased down by security. So they're expanding the allowable flight radius around that factory and allowing fewer and fewer flyovers.
I see.
That doesn't necessarily mean they're doing something special. They might just be clamping down harder and harder. We'll see. Our days of getting information out of China may be numbered, but hopefully we still see the videos where they load them up all at the port. Those are a lot of fun watching those videos, because it's like the Spartans are loading onto the ship and ready to go invade Europe. It gets me excited.
Well, last week we had Thursday night, we were just barely seeing the Cybertruck handover. So we didn't know a lot except what had barely just taken place. But obviously, I'm sure you've watched a lot of videos in the last 7 days. I'm sure you've been reading tons of posts. All of that and thinking it through, talking to other people on your staff, etc. Any major takeaways? We're top of the deck. What if you were telling your mom right now about Cybertruck? No, whatever. What do you think? Is there something that we've all missed, or is there anything that's just super exciting to you?
My view has evolved. I think I was in shock Thursday night still. And after I had time to sleep on it and think about it, I was in shock a little bit about the pricing, but I'm actually glad Tesla is going to charge the prices they think they should get, and kind of share in the extra juice that's in there in the early models. I do have a low reservation number, around 7,000. So I would be happy to take the high end $100,000 one. And one thing I might do to defray the higher price is to possibly rent it out on Turo. I'm guessing early on, you might be able to get something like $3,000 a week or something crazy.
Crazy.
It'll probably get beat up, even though it's a Cybertruck. I've seen a picture of one where I guess someone keyed a Cybertruck already, and it just created a dark scratch. Maybe they went at it harder. I don't know.
But I don't know. I saw that, and I saw some commentary after that and saying that no, that was made up. There's no your key would be blunt. It would, the key would die. You're not going to be able to anyway. So, well, all right. I would agree with you. I'm glad they put the high price on it. And my wife and I do not want that $100,000 one. We're willing to wait for the 60-ish, 65-ish version.
I made the mistake of watching the Top Gear review and watching the other review and understanding how it's different, and reflecting on the delivery event. Elon talked about how rigid the truck is, and that it's almost more rigid than a sports car. And they said more as rigid as like a, I don't know, McLaren or whatever. And that's pretty rigid. Like you can't have that flopping around if you're going 200 miles an hour around the racetrack. I think it's going to be an amazing car to drive. That's kind of where I landed. Yeah, we own a Model X Plaid, and it in some ways it drives like a boat, but it drives like a speedboat.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's just it's a pleasure to drive. It's very comfortable, very smooth, and I'm guessing the Cybertruck is just going to be really awesome to drive. And that's what sold me. So like if you don't like the price, definitely don't watch the Top Gear review, because
that's a
you might want one at any price at that point.
So the Gen 3 vehicle is now I call it the Gen 3. Other people call it the Model 2, whatever you want to call it. It is now confirmed for Austin. Elon made that very clear. And I'm saying that the first product will ship in Q4 of 2024, because otherwise they would have just waited for Mexico. What say you?
Yeah, I'd say latest, maybe summer of 2025. I think at this point, Mexico is not going to be ready by then, obviously. Even if they build Mexico at China's speed, I don't think they quite get there in time. I think it makes sense. They also want to dial in the engineering. Elon seems very excited about it.
Yeah.
So if it's more than a year and a half away, I don't think Elon would be as excited about it, but maybe we could be wrong. So you might be onto something there.
I just did a little analysis the other day too, because people have been saying, oh, the Cybertruck is not even going to move the needle. So I did this analysis the other day and said, wait a minute, the Cybertruck is 3 times as expensive as the Gen 3 vehicle is going to be, and it's probably going to be 5% higher in margins than the Gen 3. So it's going to take about over 3 times as many Gen 3 vehicles to make the same bottom line as the Cybertruck. So to me, 250,000, 500,000 Cybertrucks is going to be a very big deal to the bottom line, at least until we have Cybertruck. I mean, what do you call it? Optimus or robotaxis. But until then, it's going to be significant.
Yeah, it won't be significant for a few quarters, but then it's going to really come on. Sandy Monroe commented that there are parts of the line that are looking like they can do 60 Cybertrucks per hour, one per minute, which is pretty good. People are then extrapolating it to thinking that like Tesla can suddenly snap their fingers and do that now. What I've heard is that there's a part of the line that they need equipment for, and that's slowing things down. And that may be a month or two before they get equipment for that. Hopefully it comes on pretty soon. And I'm hopeful that that's the last snag before Cybertruck gets really big and beefy. I'm looking forward to Cybertruck really taking it to legacy car makers. A huge amount of their profits are from pickup trucks, luxury pickup trucks.
Yeah.
The other thing about price that I didn't mention is supposedly like the average price for a large pickup truck is $66,000.
Right.
Yeah. If you add luxury to that, then maybe it's probably 77,000 or more.
Yeah.
And the Cybertruck is eventually going to be starting at 60, as they indicated with I don't know if it's a single motor or what the $60,000 model was, but I think Tesla priced it well, and I think they're going to make a lot of money. They'll figure out the whole steel thing, and I don't think that'll like ruin their profits. So I'm pretty excited about it.
So on a different subject, the lead of Tesla's DOJO supercomputer project, Ganesh, I'm going to Ganesh I can pronounce because I went to Ganesha High. Are you ready for that?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that word. But Venkataraman, I think, something like that, has left the company. It was announced today. Apparently left a few weeks ago. That might have been why we saw that dip in the stock earlier today. I don't think this is it's a big deal. You never want to lose somebody like that. What are your thoughts?
In corporate America, typically people at a director or VP level last around 4 years, is what I've heard.
4 years.
Ganesh lasted 5 in this role, so a high-level role at Tesla.
Under Elon.
Under Elon. So I think he's superhuman, and he earns my respect for that. Certainly when we see someone present, they're able to present clearly and show, great intelligence that we as Tesla investors would like them to stay forever, right? But it's just not the nature of the world. And brain power in the AI world is in very high demand. AMD, when they had a stage show in the spring, Lisa Su, the CEO, or I think she said that, or maybe as the CTO said, that we're starting our AI department. There's like a little late to be starting.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's possible he went to AMD, but Microsoft, all kinds of people, they need a lot of help. Yeah. Microsoft wants to make their own chips. They just worked with NVIDIA to make their own chip, but they needed NVIDIA. The same thing with Amazon. They worked with NVIDIA to make their own chips.
Yeah.
But they want to make their own, probably without NVIDIA's help. They don't want to give NVIDIA all the power. So there's going to be a big battle in the AI world for rock stars, and we feel like Ganesh was one of them, don't you, Randy?
Absolutely. He brought him to the table. He brought him this far, and but I think they're well enough advanced, in terms of DOJO, that maybe they don't need his level, or maybe they do, and they have plenty of talent. I mean, they still draw the top talent, every single year, just even from the universities. They can grab the top talent. So, and then there's other talented people around. I'm sure that I know I'm available. I'm not going to be able to help on DOJO.
What I've heard about Tesla is they don't necessarily pay the most.
Yeah, maybe not.
People want to work there because they want to solve big problems and work with other A players and rock stars. And I'm guessing someone else just threw a ton of money at them, just kind of like probably happened with Carpathy and Microsoft dumping a bunch of money on OpenAI, and then suddenly OpenAI is poaching Carpathy from Tesla.
Could be. So switching to the general, to the economy and to the markets, commodities. I did a little deep dive on commodities today. You know, the generally across the board, not the food commodities so much, but although some of them are too, but the metals, et cetera, these are at multi-year lows as a basket. I knew they were low, but I didn't realize they're now at multi-year lows, like going back to 2020, 2021. So unless we get into an actual recession, I'm thinking we might be bottoming out on this. We're not going to be able, they're not going to just keep going down. There's always a bottom. And that could mean some reversals, maybe not now, maybe it kind of flattens out for a while, but getting into the second half of next year, commodities could start picking up again. Any thoughts on that at all?
Well, I think it bodes well for inflation and how the Fed is viewing inflation, and possibly the Fed lowering rates sometime next year. I think if people are expecting they suddenly do it in 6 months, I think that might be a little overly optimistic. But I have a great degree of confidence that the Fed is on top of things, and that they're not just looking at lagging data that's 3 to 12 months old. They're constantly interviewing business leaders and other Fed presidents, in various regions of the U.S., and they're getting that current or coincident data. So I think they're on top of these changes, and you're talking about commodities coming down. But what tends to happen is committees tend to move at the speed of the most conservative person on the committee,
right?
And they just move slower just because they're groupthink. So they tend to be a little late, and that's what the Fed's known for. I don't think it's the Fed being late, sometime next year is going to suddenly cause a recession, but I'm optimistic, they would be leaning towards lowering rates. And, I think AI is going to be pushing down costs for things over time.
As productivity.
Yep. And that helps with productivity. It helps put a lid on inflation. So I'm optimistic about things economically. We'll see if anything changes. People are saying housing, pending the existing home sales were very weak, 20-year weak, but that was just a number of existing home sales. Prices haven't suddenly dropped in real estate. And what could happen is you could have rates come down and prices could increase, or they'll just at least stay the same. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
I'm pretty sure I am written a couple of books for people. They've ghost written a couple of books on real estate. I know a lot about real estate and about the mortgage business. And I continually say, you know what, you always have the prices drop a little in the winter, which they are right now. Right now, there is no inventory. So how can you sell from an empty basket? So of course, the number of homes that were sold in winter is going to be an all-time low when you have zero. You have the least inventory ever. I mean, historically, ever have had this amount of inventory.
And if you're a homeowner and you got a 3% loan on your mortgage, you don't want to move. You may want to stay in that house forever, or seemingly forever.
So about 8 weeks ago, maybe 12 weeks ago, I started saying that there was going to be a bond rally in the 10-year. And everybody laughed at me because nobody was talking about a bond rally in the 10-year. And then about 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I started saying, no, it's going to be a big bond rally because the 5%, that's it. Can't get above 5. And all of a sudden, we're going to be seeing this bond rally. Well, of course, we've had the bond rally now. It is the fastest drop in yields, I think, in history, going from 5% to almost 4% in that little window. But meanwhile, the short-term bonds are not following. Well, they followed a little bit, but they haven't followed as much, causing this inversion to be even greater in the 2-month, especially, than it was before. So I'm now saying this is not investment advice. Bradford and I are not giving you investment advice on this channel, and we want to make sure you understand that. But I think the next big deal, very big deal, is going to be a bond rally in the 2-year, the 2-month, all the ones in between. Thoughts?
That's interesting. So that would mean people would pay a higher price and accept a lower rate.
Because normally, of course,
I feel like you need the Fed to come down a little bit, but I think you could see it in the 5-year to the 2-year. If those haven't followed enough, I think you could be right there. Yeah, I'd say right now, we're looking at our bond portfolio, and we have like a cash proxy, we have like an intermediate bond, we have some high yield bonds which have done really well, and we got some asset backed bonds, and right now we're leaning toward holding our bonds longer, so the intermediate term, and lowering our cash.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That would mean maybe a little pressure on the shorter term stuff, and I think that's maybe what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a hard time crashing through 4% until we get something from the Fed, unless inflation just drops like a rock and the Fed becomes irrelevant. If we start to see inflation at 1% or something, I mean, from the CPI and the PCE, and the Fed still not ready to move. If we see something like that, then I think the 10-year can fall below that 4% level. But what's weird, of course, is this inversion that's been going in now for a year and a half, and this inversion just makes no sense. And when I see something like that doesn't make sense over a very long period of time, at some point, people get greedy and they're looking at that going, this is not going to last forever. And they want to jump in. That's just my theory. I could be completely wrong, but I called the 5. I called the 10-year.
And in case you don't know what Randy's talking about, he's talking about the shorter term rates are higher than the intermediate term rates right now. So the shorter term rates are 5 or above, and the intermediate, is it 420, around 420 or
4.1? We'll look at it in 2 seconds. We'll bring everybody up to date here just in a second. So
that basically means people think rates are going to come down, inflation's going to come down. So I think that's okay. I don't think it's necessarily wrong, and I agree. It should balance out over time, and it should. So right now we're kind of inverted like this, and over time it should kind of go back.
So do you have any catalysts for Tesla? You have any particular specific things that you're hoping will happen in the next 60, 90, 120 days that are likely to happen, let's say, but that you're specifically waiting for?
I would say one of them would be V12. I think that would be huge, and I'm curious how good it is, whether it's a step down before we have a step up. I'm extremely confident that V12 removes any kind of ceiling they may have in their current approach, and maybe the final solution that'll get them eventually to full autonomy. If V12 pleasantly surprises and does really well, even in roundabouts where I am, I think that could be a catalyst, especially among Tesla bulls. I think Wall Street and others will be slow to realize it, but I think the public would kind of get it over time. So not like in the first few months or anything, but over time, as you and I give people test drives in our V12 Teslas. V12 has a good ring to it too.
It does.
It sounds like a 12 cylinder or something, 12 valves or whatever. I'm not a car person, but 12 volt.
Well, Bradford, let's look at the numbers then. We've got Tesla is continuing to be up 31 cents in the after hours. So that's good. Let's take a look. I think it'll continue up. I don't see anything to keep it from going all the way to 300, maybe by the end of the year, but surely early in January. I think it's going to go back to 300 because there's no technical stuff in the way. maybe 275 will be a little hard to get through, but other than that, I don't see anything stopping it from going to 300 as long as the news continues to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all right, let's look at the rest of the, I'm looking at here we go. All right, the bonds, for instance, the 10-year is up a little bit in the pre-market. So I want to say up, the rate is up a little bit in the pre-market. It's up 3 basis points, but it's still at 4.161. So my number had been 4.25. I thought it would stop at 4.25.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already gone lower than that, but it is a little bit. The yields are up a little bit in the pre-market. You've got the 2-month about the same, up about 2 basis points, and the 2-year up about the same, about 2 basis points. So right now they're kind of moving a little bit close together, which has not been normal recently. They've been like one going one way and one going the other. You're sitting going, what? So that's where we are in the bonds.
Let me comment there.
Sure, go ahead.
Maybe I'm an AI maximalist or a growth investor nut, but I think in a few years we're going to be at the point where inflation's below 2%. The Fed, maybe they're back at 0, but they're I don't know if they'll be below 2, but the Fed's going to be wringing their hands, like somehow trying to get inflation back above 2%, and be powerless in the face of the AI gods, basically.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to be very interested to see what you're doing with AI in order to make your predictions, because I'd love to have the additional tool of having AI tell me what's going to happen next. So then oil is up 50 cents. So it is still under 70. This is really good news for inflation. What do you think about oil? Do you think it's going to, some people think could break down below 67, which was the last stopping point, and be going back like into the 50s? I don't. I think 67 is it. It'll hit 67 and bounce back, but it's not going back to 100 either. So what do you think?
I don't know what number the U.S. is producing at, but I remember
record, all-time record.
Okay, yeah. So last time the U.S. hit an all-time record, you remember what happened?
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia basically attacked our oil market. They unleashed extra barrels and forced oil prices down to the point where oil futures went negative, I think, or maybe that was more recent, but they dropped down to $20, and parts of North Dakota, it was below 0, where the transport cost to get it all the way to Oklahoma or to the refineries in Texas or whatever was too punitive. I wonder if that would happen again.
Some people are predicting that. Yeah.
The Saudis don't like, because the U.S. oil producers, they're not in the OPEC cartel. They're not in OPEC Plus or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't listen to the marching orders of Saudi Arabia. So it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, I'm more interested in what it means for inflation and what it means. I don't play oil, but I'm more interested in what it means for inflation and what it means for the Fed's decision making. The dollar, of course.
Oil is very important. Energy is the lifeblood of our economy.
Yeah. And we've got gold still sitting up there. It was all-time high last week, but it's fallen about $100 since then. It's at 2,047. Interesting that gold has become this. Inflation is going south and gold is going north. Typically, you think of it as a place when you have a high inflation, you're going to go to have a safe haven, or if you have an economy that's in trouble, it's a safe haven. But all of a sudden, gold is a play.
When rates are lower, people tend to like gold and cryptocurrencies because you're carrying costs for just taking something and storing it in a vault or in a USB key in your backyard. You're carrying costs is lower when rates are lower. So I'm not surprised that gold is doing better as rates come down.
All right. Well, crypto, of course.
But it is a weird conundrum because, yeah, when inflation's higher, you expect gold to be higher, but the carrying costs get worse when rates are higher. Yeah, I don't know how that works. That's above my pay grade.
It's one of those ones where I need to dig into a little more study. So we have the Dow. Everything is okay. This is kind of my overall prediction. See what you think. Overall, I think we're going to have flatness. It's going to be this. The Dow will be moving up. The futures, I mean, the S&P, the NASDAQ, they'll all be moving up. Magnificent Seven, they'll be moving up, but not very fast. Commodities flattened out. It's going to stay. Gold's going to stay. Dollar's going to stay. I mean, right now, I think there's going to be a period where people are trying to decide how to move things around. And they had massive amounts of money coming in off the sidelines. I think that's not going to be so much. We're not going to have that massive continuation of those kind of numbers in order to push gold up and push bonds up, et cetera. So other than the 2 year and the 2 month, the short term bonds, where I do think there could be a rally in the short term, maybe within the next 30 days. Other than that, I think it's going to be flattish.
Yeah, maybe. I want to give you a puzzle with money on the sidelines. So let's say there's 6 trillion on the sidelines. I'm just making that up.
Yeah, so
that means there's 6 trillion in cash.
Yes.
What is it, Randy?
I think it's like 14.
14. So let's say it's 14 cash on the sidelines. So if you then take $1 trillion and put it in stocks, how much cash is in the sidelines?
Well, theoretically 13 trillion.
No, 14, because you took cash from one party and gave it to the other party, and you still got 14 trillion in cash in the sidelines.
I see. Oh, that is a puzzle. Now I have to think about that. Oh my goodness, you've given me something to really contemplate.
But what does matter is incremental demand for stocks or bonds, right, versus cash. So that can matter, but yeah, cash on the sidelines is a bit of a misnomer.
I see. Well, okay, I won't sleep tonight now. I don't know what I'm going to do. So Bradford,
let me share one more puzzle since we're in the puzzle mode. One thing that was interesting when China was blowing up, and this was like in a good way.
Yeah.
And this was like 2007 or maybe like 2012 or so. Their banking system was loaning out like $500 billion per month. And people are saying their banks are just being crazy. They're loaning all this money out. But what happens is when you deposit money into the bank, you create a loan. It's a very unusual loan because we think of it as we're saving our money. We don't think of it as a loan.
Right.
But we can ask for that money back from the bank at any time.
Right.
And what's interesting about China is the savings rate of their people is so high, like it could be like 30%. So I did the math and I was like, well, this amount of loan growth in China is because people are just taking massive amounts of their income and putting it in the bank and creating loans that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's certainly good for their economy that people were saving at those levels and then putting it into real estate, but it didn't turn out to be very good for those folks who put it into real estate.
No. Yeah, it ended up being bad, but it was interesting. But they didn't have a huge banking crisis.
Yeah.
Like you would think 50 billion a month, you're going to have a big banking crisis, and nope. It's just people depositing their money in the bank.
All right. Well. So last thought then, Bradford, is that there's this website called rebellionaire.com. People should go to there. They should also be ready for your next video, which is going to be out next week.
Yeah, by next week, maybe over the weekend.
And there's going to be news in there. There's going to be a stock that you're going to talk about on that video.
Yeah.
We're going to be
some new insight, and it's interesting. There is some relation to Tesla and the energy grid. Hydrogen was talked about in the master plan part 3. Shortage of transformers. We've been talking about the interconnect queue problems with Megapack.
Yeah.
Where Tesla wants to sell all these Megapacks to power producers, but the power producers are waiting on the interconnect queues. So this company does something about all that.
I see. Okay, well, lots of hints. So we'll see. Let us know in the comments below if you think you know who Bradford's talking about. All right. Well, okay. So I think that's it for today. I will mention to anybody who's still watching, of course, that they should buy my Cybertruck bottle openers, but they think they've already heard enough about my Cybertruck bottle openers. Some people are saying I should shut up.
I want to know where your wife got that shirt, Randy.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be talking to her about that, because who knows? Maybe I'll be selling those next.
And I hope you're right about Tesla stock. That'd be pretty fun.
Wouldn't that? All right, then. Until next week, unless you have something exciting to talk about in between. Thanks again, Bradford, for coming on and co-hosting. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.